Void Terrarium might not be the biggest JRPG series by design, but it's one I've appreciated as it has a lot of heart. It's a world where you can take care of the lost survivor of humanity Toriko with the lovable robot Robbie and the emotional factory AI acting as her caregivers. Its story of protection and caring feelings makes for a world with a lot of small, heartwarming moments that make you want to keep things safe and fun for its unique group of characters. This is no different in Void Terrarium 2, with everyone returning and still needing dungeons to be crawled for items to survive in its contaminated world, only this time it smartly introduces a quest system to both expand the story and the amount of things you have to do in it that works cleverly with other systems to make it feel leveled up as a sequel should. If you like roguelike dungeon crawlers and the idea of doing all this in a wholesome world, Void Terrarium 2 is a fun new take on the genre, and in its 30 hours made me want to protect Toriko with everything I had in this sweet world full of tender feelings and satisfying gameplay once again. Void Terrarium 2 continues right where the first game leaves off, with the terrarium housing young Toriko and her machine caregivers Factory AI and Robbie getting back into the flow of taking care of Toriko and each other after the big events of the last game. This is quickly interrupted though, as a robot attack and glitches mean their current home is in danger and they have to pack up and relocate. That essentially means starting from zero for the group, setting the stage for the building and terrarium life simulator to happen all over again. This is with the knowledge Factory AI and Robbie have gained from the first game though, that means this is more about expanding the terrarium and also taking the time to look into Toriko's origins in true sequel style as things continue with a new start to build on an already interesting world. It's easy to feel at home right away in 2 if you play the first Void Terrarium, as most of its UI and mechanics are basically the same that make it easy to jump into. This brings back the game flow of going through dungeons, collecting supplies, and converting excess loot into resources, all in an effort to make a nice home for Toriko and gain buffs for little Robbie. If you're familiar with the first one, this will all feel very similar. The items you collect, except special ones, are mostly the same, so it's about getting back into the rhythm of using gadgets, potions, and leveling dungeon by dungeon using the random effects you get to your advantage, something I had a lot of fun with thanks to the easier way skills are obtained by getting weapons, plus the inclusion of weapon levels and new types of both of these, and this isn't to mention the random effects you get as you level up that are super fun, especially if you know how to use them together. One thing that's brand new to Void Terrarium 2 are the mystery floors, something I noticed during my time with its demo and something I really loved throughout my playthrough. There are a good variety of these floors, some that will give you simple 5-star skills and others that will let you synthesize your weapons together for that all-important inventory space and power, with all of them being a huge advantage when you find them on your journey. This is alongside the fact that dungeons often have a predetermined overall effect, such as reduced damage to certain types of enemies in exchange for increases to others, or even dungeons that spawn a lot of the mystery rooms to keep you on your toes. There are even secret dungeons that pop up periodically too, making every dungeon crawl always go beyond being just a randomly generated roguelike, as these other clever mechanics make each and every trip feel different, which is important as there are actually only so many dungeons to explore, but it never ever feels that way. After you die or complete a dungeon, you're sent back to the terrarium where you can craft things to make Toriko's life a bit better, with permanent buffs as a small reward to improve Robbie's dungeon life too. Aside from the Tamagotchi-like elements of feeding her, cleaning, and treating her weird and wonderful illnesses, the terrarium itself is a mechanic, with growing plants being a new hobby of sorts for Toriko that featured a lot in its trailers and looks very cute when you come home and see her doing it after a long exhibition. Gardening isn't that big of a mechanic in 2 though, and rather feels like just one more thing you can do and place in the terrarium. There are quests that require it specifically, but I found it only as satisfying as crafting a toy car, for example, and coming back to see her adorably playing with it, which you can do with many other items. That's not to say it's a bad mechanic, it's just maybe more part of a bigger one, which is the decoration in the terrarium, with other features like setting atmospheres for Toriko to enjoy, complete with the music being much more interesting to me, and made me feel like Toriko was having a nice little life every time I came back in those little moments that Void Terrarium is good at giving. These moments are expanded on in the best way, with a new quest system put in that allows you to access secrets from the old world. They give Void quests outside of curing Toriko's illnesses for the first time, and end up being a great addition as they make each dungeon feel more fruitful. Since dungeons lead into each other, you can plan your route around where you can complete the most quests, and if you pair this with the fragment earning system that rewards you for completing dungeons in specific ways, it's very rare that losing partway through through feels like a waste, and even if you die on the first floor of somewhere, everything that has no use is still converted to points that you can use for crafting, meaning each dungeon you do is a win in some kind of way. All these things together make Void Terrarium 2 feel like a great upgrade to the first one that makes doing dungeon runs more satisfying than ever, especially with all the random surprises it gives too. It's here I should mention that playing on PS4, I did have a couple of crashes throughout my journey, including one that corrupted my autosave data, so I do recommend manually saving at least when you arrive back at the terrarium so that that random error doesn't become something that sours your playthrough. But that moment is minor between all the fun dungeon crawls I had in this addictive roguelike cross-simulation experience that made me happy to be collecting things to keep improving Tariko's little world. Because of Void Terrarium 2's new quest system, its story feels at its most interesting, with the information we learn about the old world making the sequel go beyond just being about Tariko. This is another part of the sequel that has been smartly implemented, with its pixel art style giving it a distinct feel, all while telling the history of the world, and with the fact that it connects to dungeons as Robbie collects things to progress that side of the story too, it feels like another side of the Void Terrarium 2 coin that makes it feel deeper than the first one. It also expresses this theme of wishes well, with granting both Tariko's and the old world's people's wishes, keeping both sides feeling meaningful, with my only complaint being that to get all the humans' quests before the ending, meaning you have to pass time sometimes without quests as you've just completed the one available at the time. You can sort of cheat this by taking advantage of the fact that you can jump into layer 5+ in some dungeons later in the game, which is what you need to do to pass time, but I would have liked it better if I could just go quest to quest and have a bunch waiting for me instead of being given them once time allows it to close the blank points between certain ones. It has given me some replayability though, so whether I do it the quick way or not, I do have the fact that I think these may lead to the true ending to be a reason to come back to Void Terrarium 2 again. This is also on top of similar endgame dungeons like the first one featured for a fun challenge, and with its dungeon satisfying gameplay and the way its demo ran on Switch with only minor performance issues when lots of enemies were in one room, it could be one I consider for my train times, as I definitely love to see the true end, especially considering how much love I have for its unique terrarium family. Because of other things coming out, it might be a bit until I do this, but my wholesome 30 hours with it will keep it somewhere in the back of my mind for if another sequel comes out or when I finally get to finish this one in the truest way, as Void Terrarium 2 did a great job of making me care about its world all over again. Void Terrarium 2 is a clever sequel to the original. It's easy to pick up if you play the first one, as it expands on its original mechanics in smart ways, all while keeping the world revolving around protecting Tariko and meeting her needs and wishes as much as possible. Where Void Terrarium 2 shines most is in its new features though, with it feeling like an overall better game thanks to all the things you can do in it, and the effort it puts into establishing the old world to make things feel fuller as they all tie into each other to make something truly interesting that fans of the first one are definitely bound to enjoy. For me, how interesting it all felt together made it easy to surpass any technical issues I had with it, and made me sink hours into it at a time with how easy it was to just want to do one more thing for Tariko in this world. So if you miss these kinds of addictive roguelikes from the Vita days, or you're looking for a world that shows heart in unique ways, I once again recommend you don't sleep on the interesting dungeon crawler experience that Void Terrarium 2 is, that rightly continues this series, and made me remember why I love its tender world that I look forward to exploring more again in someday to help the group live the best they can in their contaminated world. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comments below if you're going to try Void Terrarium 2, and if you have, what did you think of it? You can like and share this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel for more JRPG content like this, and ring that bell to get notifications on whenever I post so you don't miss a thing. You can check out more videos here, and you can find me on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at JRPG Jungle. Links to those will be in the description below. Thank you to NIS for the code, and until next time, thank you, bye!